Hello and welcome to episode 248 of the FReality Podcast. Your weather forecast for today is a healthy dose of robo-recall. The rain is coming down hard in Dubai, and the world has a growing reliance on artificial intelligence. Might be disconcerting to some. We might not be here tomorrow, but we are here today. So sit down, plug into the conversation, and let's be glad we can even do this. Here's what we have for you. Students get a front row ticket to the NBA game of Scholastic Thrills. Can't get that one out. Scholastic Thrills. Mark doubles down on his mission for intraplanetary dominance. Adam took a dip in the deep blue sea. PSVR 2 is trundling along. Where's that PC update, Sony? And Apple Vision Pro is still bloody expensive. Not much in today's show about either of those, honestly. But oh no, robots are coming for your chores. It's like Terminator, but instead of knifing your parents, he's taking out the garbage for you. And speaking of sifting through the trash, Jose is here to pull out the finest in upcoming VR releases a bit later in the show. This here's the FReality crew. It's Rowdy, the wise guy, Jose, the feisty, and Adam Bombody, the sassy. Let's not forget myself. I'm Zim, the virtuous, pure, generous, humble, and kind. So humble. It's time we talk recent highlights with the team. Up first is Adam, then it's going to be Jose, and finally Rowdy, the loosey-goosey, moosey-caboosey. Adam, over to you. How you doing?
Doing good. I found an interesting game over the weekend. And it's all about stabbing things. What a way, but it's kind of like 10 a.m.
Oh,
my time.
no.
I'm like, what a way to wake up everybody. I didn't think I'd be first, but that's totally okay. But anyway, I played a game that's called Stab It VR, and it's very, very simple. All you have to do are these bats come to you, and you have a knife in your hand, and all you have to do is just stab them. And sometimes they come at you from down below, and sometimes they come at you from up above. But regardless of where they're coming from, your objective. Sometimes you can use two hands as well, so it's very fun. So I think there we go. We got the video of
Oh my
that. That's when we
God.
had the lower bat. So yeah, you just keep stabbing it until it's finished.
Okay, wait a minute.
No, this is arcade VR
Wait
game.
a minute.
This is what we need at arcades.
This. Are you
This is a
sure
workout.
that you're playing a
And-
stabbing game? Because, like, I mean,
So you have to crouch down because you don't want the what is
I
it,
don't know,
stalagmite
Adam, but
screens
like,
called.
like if
Sometimes you need both at the same time.
Oh my
you
God,
can
the
tell-
zoom in.
Yo.
Oh God. All right, audio listeners. I can't even.
Whoa,
Whoa.
Good morning.
You're double gunning it
Interesting.
now.
interesting.
Wow, that's
Sometimes you got to do what you got to do, But anyway, so I guess seriousness aside, this was just like they purposely obviously made this game like this where it looks like you're making rude, inappropriate gestures when stabbing. So just, again, audio listeners, take a knife, kind of make a stabbing motion, and you can sort of get the picture with where this is going.
Wait.
And I think it's hilarious. It'd be a great game if you're just like, hey, friends, come over to my house and play VR. It's a simple thing where you stab bats, and then your friends can make fun of you.
it's great. I love how they advertise this game. And this reminds me, a couple of years ago there was I think it was it a French outfit? There were like 2-3 dudes. They were doing like FPS games about one like loading the other one's clips and stuff, but it totally looked like this. It was totally like taking the mick out of both of the VR players. I just can't believe that someone actually made a game, put it on the store, market it. What is this thing called again?
Stab It VR.
Stab It VR.
It's only has like 3 levels, so like I said, in the first one you start with a bat that's lower, and then the second one, I think that's when you have a higher bat, and then you get 2. I don't know how to make it non-inappropriate. It's an interesting podcast today.
I kind of want someone to grab their Nana and put her through this. It would be a great video.
Same thing.
But anyway, I thought it was, I don't know, like, this is my kind of sense of humor. I know it may not be everybody's cup of tea, but I thought it was hilarious. It'd make a great party game to just get your friends in headsets. Like, and it's easy. You just stab it. Like, it's a simple mechanic.
It's so perfect for YouTube.
Yeah.
Especially if you pretend like you're clueless about it. Oh, perfect.
Nice. Oh, my wife doesn't know about this. She just asked to come on tomorrow's stream.
Yeah, just tell her
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a solo
It's a
dev, but just lie to
fitness
her and
game.
tell her it's a
A
solo
fitness game.
dev game, and
Yeah.
he wants to get some feedback. So, but he
Nice.
wants feedback from someone who's not in the headset as much as you are. There you go.
She's so gullible. I might do it. I might do it.
Aw.
I once did it with Minecraft VR years ago, like 2016, 2017. And I convinced her that she had to what was that? She had to like whack the headset or something to like enable or disable crouch, something like that. I can't remember exactly what it was.
Aw.
But man, it was so funny. I was there with the keyboard, like just pressing the buttons, overriding her command while she was in VR. So
You, you know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of like you guys watch South Park ever, right?
Yeah.
There's this episode. It's called I think it's called the Shake Weight, where all of
Yeah.
the moms buy like this like shaker thing.
That's a real product.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
literally found a $2 at a used store shake weight, and it was only then that I realized the shake weight. I
Used
was thought
store.
the shake weight would actually vibrate with battery. It doesn't. It doesn't. It's just a shifting weight. It's like just a
Are
heavy
you
weight.
disappointed? You sound very disappointed by
I
this.
I thought I was getting like a $2 discount. Yeah, absolutely. It's in, but it's like National Treasure, that kind of stuff, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's an
Don't
American product.
vibrate.
But yeah,
It
this-
sounds like it would be very, proud USA.
Yeah. Well, I also remember there used to be an exercise gadget, if you want to call it that, that would just jiggle you with a belt, right? So if you're a little bit overweight, it would just jiggle the fat off you was the idea.
Was
think
that
it was
the thing you stand on? Like
popular
you
in,
would
like, the
stand on it. It's like a
60s.
scale, and you would just jiggle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jiggle everywhere.
Anyway. So that's your special highlight, hey? It's amazing.
yeah.
The video is beautiful. I hope that does wonders for you over on TikTok.
Thank you very much.
Lovely highlight. All right, who do we have up next? I think it's Jose up next.
Oh
You're up to
boy,
the
oh
plate.
boy. What's up, you guys?
Hey, Jose.
I don't think I have anything of that level. I think I went the complete opposite direction of the gaming spectrum. I've been playing a lot of old school games, so I really gotten into like emulation, or gotten into emulation pretty hardcore. So I been playing a lot of like Wii games, but like upscaled with high graphics. So I've been playing a lot of Super Paper Mario. I don't know if you guys ever heard of that
Yeah,
game.
good game.
But so I never actually, I remember seeing trailers of it, but never like actually playing it. So upscaling it, and like Nvidia released a pretty dope update for RTX cards called the, I think it's, actually I can tell you right now because it's
Sure.
a pretty big game changer for people that have RTX cards on Windows. One of the biggest issues right now is that we see all these cool stuff that Nvidia promotes, like AI upscale and things like that, that we people on the computers really don't benefit as much unless the games are cooked into it. So Nvidia released an update for their Nvidia Control Center, and it's eerily hidden. But if you right-click the Nvidia, if you open up the control panel, it's called the RTX Video Enhancement. So it pretty much brings up into the Windows OS level all the cool AI upscaling and HDR, color filtering on Windows that was kind of broken and janky for a little bit.
What card do you have? What RTX card do you have?
I'm using an RTX 3080, sorry. No,
3080s.
4080.
Okay. Yeah.
4080. Yeah, I
Big
was like,
cards.
yeah, but I think this works all the way up to the 2060. So,
And the basic idea is, for anyone who's, not familiar with AI upscaling, is it similar to like when you take a standard definition DVD on a 4K panel and it is basically doing the upscale, but then sharpening and all the other fancy tricks. So
exactly.
And
I'm curious, how
And-
does that help you with does it mess up sorry, I'm trying to think back to like the Wii days.
So think about
That never
SDR.
looked good. That like
Yeah.
never looked good on any device. I think the Wii was pretty
Exactly.
aliased,
And we're talking about games at this moment, but it goes all the way back to SDR content. Like think about like 90s anime that hasn't received like the HDR upscaling.
Yeah.
Now you can watch these natively on the computer, and your graphics card is upscaling it natively, and now you get deeper colors.
Just does it on the fly?
It does it on the fly. Linus Tech Tips actually
Wow.
released a video. I think about last week talking about it, and I saw that. I immediately jumped in, and I just been playing a lot of old school content on it, and the colors it's weird. It almost tricks your brain to reimagining this stuff. Like it's a little bit deeper colors because it's using a lot of AI upscale, but it's such a phenomenal update. But yeah, I've just been playing a
Do
lot
you
of
see any like?
old school games.
I mean, there must be, but like, have you noticed any like artifacting? Like, what is there anything
Funny-
specifically that stood out there? Because what you're doing
So
is you're doing pixel prediction,
Yeah,
right?
correct. So it's really bizarre. You only notice a lot of artifacting when the content is already tailored for HDR, because now you're kind of like double dipping. So it's kind of better to just, and it does have that on the keyboard. You can make like a hotkey for you to disable, enable it on the fly. So you can watch video and you can just see how it looks and immediately disable it with the keyboard
That's cool.
or with the game. Yeah, it's pretty gnarly update. So I been falling in love with operating systems all over again, kind of noticing Microsoft, weirdly enough, making some really cool moves, and you can start seeing glimpses of what the computers are going to look like in the next few years at the OS level. And I'm just revisiting a lot of content. Almost made me like kind of like regret not having all those backups of like movies and MP3s and stuff like that, because it's like
It's a little weird. Like what those updates are something that typically pass me by for years until I like run across them randomly. Like, where did you hear about it? How do you stay plugged in for like NVIDIA patch notes,
man,
you know?
be a nerd. I'm one of those people watching keynote conferences and press releases and streams for that. But Linus Tech Tips, I think he's probably one of the better tech people out there. There's also
I never heard of him.
Oh man, yeah, right. Who has
I'm kidding.
But
I'm kidding.
I know. But yeah, he actually made a video on this. It got a little bit of coverage in the tech circles. Barnacles, also a really big tech person on Twitter and on YouTube, homie. But yeah, just I plugged in or follow me. I don't know. Listen to the people that are obsessed about this kind of stuff. I guess
Well, it's great because when you run across a trick like that and then you use it and you're like, why didn't I use this for the last 5 years? I mean, there's a benchmark still in my 15-year-old brain that says when I can see GoldenEye on a screen or in a headset, like I have it in my head, then we'll be there. You know, with like AI and upscaling and all of that tech. Because the last time I looked at GoldenEye, maybe 15 years ago, god damn, it looked awful. Like I was like, I remembered it a certain way. It was not that way.
It's funny how that works, right? That your brain kind of like upscales it yourself, right? Like the way that you imagine how it looked like, or like for example, like the first Halo game, like, you know, if you look at that back now, you're like, oh my days. But I remember looking at pictures and magazines of it and be like, oh, this is just like real life. And I'm like,
so realistic.
Yeah, real life was Minecraft, you know?
Oh man, you just blew. This is a completely side note, but also related to what you just said, Rowdy. I was having a conversation with a photographer last weekend, and he was telling me, he was showing me a lot of pictures that I guess one relative of his took like early 90s shots of like Michael Jordan doing like a dunk. And I was seeing all these pictures, and I said a joke about how these images, you can never, like, no matter what kind of camera you use today, you can never like really catch that energy of back then. It's just the images never look like how you saw them. And those pictures perfectly capture that. And this guy blew my mind. And he goes like, well, the reason the images from then will never look like today, or even live videos or anything, is because most of the planet was full of cigarette smoke and nicotine. And that completely broke my brain. But that's the reason why all these images looked had a different color tone. It was because the atmosphere was full of nicotine.
Well, I can tell you that as a young lad in Ireland, like when I went to someone's 18th birthday, which is, you know, when we could legally go to the pub and drink alcohol together, man, like I'm so glad the smoking ban came shortly thereafter, because it was dire going into a bar. It was like thick cloud.
But those pictures would have looked nice, though.
They would look
Nice.
excellent. Yeah, no one had a smartphone back then. No cameras. You know, you're not lugging around cameras. But
darn it.
Well, that's interesting. I'll have to think back. way back, but to the smoky pictures, the smoky era. Cool, Jose. Great. Well, next up then, Mr. Moosey Kabusi, Rowdy himself.
Yeah, I'm doing great. I think my highlight. I mean, we'll talk about it a little bit more, but I know that Meta released their new open source model. Llama 3 has now been released. I think just was it yesterday or the day before yesterday?
2 days, yeah.
Yeah, 2 days. Which is again a major thing, especially because like they open source this kind of stuff. Like I'm still kind of amazed by the effort and money that goes into this, and I'm really open sourcing this kind of technology. It's a little bit of backstep, I would say. It's a very smart strategic choice at how they position themselves in this market. And it's a little bit because like OpenAI and like all of these other models, they're closed source models. And open sourcing them means that everyone can work with these kind of models, retrain them weights, get access to those weights. It's pretty impressive, and the performance as well has been. It's probably not yet up to par with what we see with GPT-4. I think that's to be expected. But yeah, I think this just shows like the investment that Facebook has been doing, because they recently announced, like not that long ago, they announced that I think it was in March, that they purchased 24,000 GPU clusters, which allows them to train these kind of models, which I think because I looked it up here, it was. Yeah, so they build out we're aiming to continue to grow our infrastructure build out that will include 350,000 NVIDIA's H100 GPUs as part of a portfolio that will feature compute power equivalent to nearly 600,000 H100.
Meta money.
You know what I want to do with that, Rig? I just want to run Crisis.
Yeah.
Now, can't run it. Now, they already said in a statement later, they tried it, didn't work. But but yeah, that just shows. Yeah, it's meta money. There's only a couple of companies in the world probably that can actually physically do this, and that this is the cluster that they've used to train this model on. And I'm expecting to see probably a lot more in the coming months and years coming out from that. They've made a really clear strategy because they're so predominant in this deep learning field, because they also they develop PyTorch, which is the deep learning framework that is, I feel, at least in the industry that I work in, has kind of taken over the Google competitor from that, which was TensorFlow, Keras. Still very popular, but I see in research and industry, the availability or the amount of times that we see PyTorch, which was originally developed by Meta, is being used has been kind of taken over. And I think that just shows like the kind of impact that they have specifically on this industry is really not to be underestimated. And they're making a lot of right choices here. I think open sourcing this, what is that going to cause? It's going to cause a lot more people to be working specifically with these kind of models, which means that there's more packages, more tools, more implementations that go into work with this, because they can customize it. They have they have a license with it. So it comes with a lot of advantages for people to make money with this. While with OpenAI, even though I do think that their models are probably better, quote unquote. Depends, of course, on what you're doing, but the fact it's still a closed source model. Like it's you input something, you don't really have an idea what is happening that much behind the scene, and then you get it's proprietary.
Yeah,
there was this very famous discussion between I think a Microsoft big shot and then Jan LeCun, of course, working with Meta AI. He's pretty much an AI guru. And Microsoft was basically, Microsoft, I forgot his name. He's a pretty big guy, but anyway, he was saying basically,
sorry,
pretty fat guy. He was basically saying, well, if people would choose between, a company that is, is a non-profit that has this model and that's how he was positioning OpenAI, because it's a non-profit, isn't that? Or between Meta or Facebook, then people might choose the non-profit. But Jan LeCun's response to that is, that can very well be if you have these kind of okay, it's a for-profit company, but we're open sourcing the model. you can't be more open than open sourcing the model, because the source code is right there. It's you can work with it. You can download the weights. You can do whatever you want with it. So that argument was kind of like thrown out of the window, because
I think it's mad though. Like I do see that because of the shadow that follows what used to be Facebook around, people underestimate the power they actually carry. And I'm really interested in seeing how this plays out in the next 2 years, because they're not playing around. These are like major tactical strategic moves, and this recent maneuver, in my opinion, it's going to cause a feeding frenzy, because if you're OpenAI now, and again, this is a main topic, we'll come back to it later, but it's going to be a gravity well, and if OpenAI don't respond really in kind, they're going to lose market share. This is very similar to when Meta did the $300 Quest 2 play originally, which just ate 70% of the market, like within 6 months. It was mad.
And I'm fully convinced that OpenAI still has the market share. It's the most popular company, but we see other players like kind of encroaching on that market share, and Meta knows really well how to play that game, and they don't mind losing money on this. That's the thing. They can lose as much. It's not their company. This is just a side thing for them. And of course, it's going to turn into. We will talk about it later. The implementation of this, and some people are saying this is going to be the next big thing next to the invention of fire. That's what some people are comparing it to. Like this, the scale of this is going to grow, and every company is going to benefit from this. But Facebook is very clearly positioning themselves as not as they're not interested per se in the market share of like their company, but all of the tools are going to be eventually leveraging some part of what they're developing, whether it being PyTorch, whether it being their Llama 3 model, whether it being, whatever it is. They're building, like they're very much doing with VR, they're building this framework for people to use and develop their own products for, which is a very smart thing. And I know we talk and we complain a lot about Facebook, but I've always said if Facebook was an evil company, or Meta was an evil company, I think they could do far worse things. I'm not saying they're not doing bad things, but they could make things a lot worse if they had. I mean, they probably couldn't because of laws and regulations. But
I was gonna say, hopefully they can't just do that.
Yeah, hopefully they can't. But they can.
I wanted to add to what you said just now, though, that what is the harm that they could do? If anything, they're doing that to their competitors in a way, because by them open sourcing one of the biggest AI models, they pretty much destroyed a pathway for any AI company to ever even reach the level of success.
No, I don't agree with that, because it's the same thing as, for example, the internet. They could have made the internet a proprietary thing as well, but they didn't. The internet was freely available for everyone to build and explore. And I think this technology is very similar to that. Because what OpenAI has done this as well, by the way, where they kind of like destroyed companies that were leveraging their API tools and building agents. Then after 3 months or 4 months of the model being available, they implemented that agent thing themselves, where everyone could build agents in GPT, which meant all of those PDF agent companies and those companies, the chatbot agent companies. They were now like losing a large part of their revenue, because now people could just, with the click of a button, if they were subscribed to the OpenAI, subscription platform fee, they could now leverage that themselves. So I think every company kind of does that, but the way that Meta is positioning themselves as doing it open source, making it freely available, giving it to the hands of the people, is a very smart strategy.
One big question for you, Rowdy, on this basis. When you were talking there, it reminded me very much of the foreign exchange market. I know we're going into serious stuff now. We'll get back to games in a second. One of the things that's an opportunity is inefficiency in a market generates the ability for people to trade, right? So same thing here. Like there's been a lot of leapfrogging in the language model space, where people are leveraging various AI tools, and one of the inefficiencies in that is if you don't realize company A can offer you something for half the price of company B, there's just so much noise at the moment that I feel like the intermediaries can just cash out so much. And we see that even for the podcast, for example. You know how many per week offers I get of people saying, hey, I can make a short clips of your podcast for X amount of dollars. So it's like, yeah, I don't want that. I've already had that offered 17 times. But I do feel like there's a lot of business opportunity there right now. And inevitably, if we end up with a model that is open source, that is like the internet, then those inefficiencies will eventually collapse down again. So it's a bit of a gold rush right now.
Yeah. And I see some people commenting in the chat as well that they're worried about like privacy concerns. I do want to, there's two different things that I'm talking about here. You have Meta AI, which is, the platform that they released, built on Llama 3. And then you have Llama 3, the model itself. If you're using Llama 3 within your company, you need to host it yourself. So you need to download the weights, download the model. There is no data being sent to Meta. There is no data being shipped anywhere except for where you're sending it to within the structure of your company. So it's a local deployment, or it can be a cloud deployment if you do it in a cloud. But it's the model itself is hosted by you. Not by, for example, with OpenAI, GPT, those models you don't have access to, they're hosted at the OpenAI servers and you pay per request. That's not the case with Llama 3. Llama 3, you download the weights, they're on Hugging Face. You just download those weights, deploy those models. They have an 8 billion parameter model and a 70 billion parameter model. Don't try deploying the 70 billion because it's not going to work.
I'm just imagining people downloading shake weights now. That's all.
It's going to work.
Well, there you go. That was cool. I mean, it's neat. I always appreciate you guys come from like very different directions with your highlights. I mean, here's Adam stabbing some bats and
let's watch that video just one more time now.
We've got the shake weight downloads from Rowdy and Jose keeping us fresh with old school gaming in 4K. So with that, chat, thanks for making it out to the live broadcast. We appreciate it's a long drive for you. You had to wait in line for hours, and the beer here really is quite expensive. Well, we hope you enjoy it anyway, and give us a shout in chat if there's anything you'd like to share with us. And with that, it's time for my little highlight. I've got two. The first one's very quick. I played some games last weekend, and every so often I'll just take a bunch of games, 5-6 games, and just kind of dip into them. And two of them I left really impressed with. One of them that we didn't cover much on the show before was Stranger Things VR. So if you're a fan of the show, this is from Tender Claws, and they've done some really trippy stuff in the past in VR. I remember going to see Shakespeare's The Tempest, a live production, through one of their... I've never been able to remember the app's name. This kind of weird... I don't know how to psychedelic kind of construct that they had, and they were putting on live productions. But Stranger Things VR, I think, is really interesting because just like the Upside Down, this game turns everything inside out. So the show itself is a bunch of teens in kind of this late 80s, early 90s setup, and some really interesting stuff starts happening to them with weird creatures and disappearances. And if you haven't been a fan of the show, I don't want to spoil it for you. But there's one bad guy involved in the show called Vecna. And actually the VR game, you aren't the good guys, you're the bad dude. And this means that Tender Claws had in their hands the capability to give you what VR has as one of its main strengths, kind of superpowers, or a feeling of being empowered as something greater than yourself. We see this in games like Underdogs, where you feel like you're in this giant steel mech and you just feel all powerful. And in this game, it's like that, but they got the organic nature of the game with this kind of rooting, like a tree root system, that you control through the powers of Vecna, and your movement mechanisms are kind of an extension of roots, almost if you were Groot. And you can maneuver yourself around levels. There's areas where you're controlling the minds of other creatures. Just through all of this, you feel imbued with a certain element of power, and the strange kind of artistic take that Tender Claws always bring to their VR experiences or games is imbued right there alongside it. So if you are a fan of Stranger Things, the television series, I'd say check this out because it's a pretty damn good pivot off of the series and nestles in story-wise. I haven't gotten to the later hours of the game yet, but nestles in to a place where it can ready you for the upcoming series as well. So really cool.
So you liked it then? Because I heard mixed things about it. I have it, but I haven't played it yet because I was on this season and then got cut out. But people were kind of mixed about it. So
yeah, and I can see why they're mixed. I'm a guy who likes David Lynch films, so put that there. If you've ever watched anything what David Lynch has created, it's totally like a totally bizarro side. If you like bizarre stuff, but you enjoy that feeling of power, I thought, Rowdy, this might be up your street because of things like Control, for example, a game that you like, where you do have that kind of superhuman element to you. But again, I haven't gotten far enough to give it a final verdict, but my initial kind of hour or two with it has been really solid.
What I really like about it is like the art style again. I think that just works so well in VR because that lower fidelity what they play with, the cartoony or like the
beautiful.
It's not cartoon. It's more like comic style, like comic book style kind of thing.
Cell shaded sort of.
Cell shaded, yeah, that kind of stuff. I think just works so well in VR.
Yeah, and they're getting better at it. What was that? Lies Within? What was the horror game? I think where they did similar, but this is, Lies Beneath. Lies Beneath. And in this, I didn't see aliasing. The organic nature of the roots growing, and some of the powers and some of the orby energy kind of patterns that you see in it, they all felt really quite organic. Not like here's a VR game that's struggling to kind of tell me the story it wants to tell. It felt like right on par with that. So, playing it on Quest, I was like, it's right at home. That's how it felt. So I wanted to give people a shout because I feel like it's one of those titles that, as you said, Adam, it kind of got mixed reception. And the problem with VR today is that things kind of come and go just so fast. Like people just stop talking about stuff and, a month later. So that's one. The other one that I played, which is similar, but in terms of, having great power and great responsibility, is one about controlling a whole community in a third world country. And that's Tropico. So Tropico, many of you will know from the
tried that one too. Yeah,
desktop game.
I'm excited for this. Yeah.
You're going to get into it, Adam. And the first thing you're going to go, holy shit, why does it look so terrible? So if you take any PC game and you're like, give it to a company and say, port this to VR, it's going to be scaled inappropriately. It's going to be aliased. It's going to have jaggies. The text is going to be awkward to read. Things aren't going to match. Tropico's got all of that, unfortunately. That said, I'd never played Tropico before. I've played games like Black and White and SimCity, and I love management type games, right?
Yeah.
But my wife, being a big Tropico fan, goaded me into playing this, and so I did. And I have to say, having the pleasure every 2 weeks of being podcast host, being a dictator never felt so natural, So first off, you start off and you pick your character, and in this case, the character we went for was a shirtless, kind of Sacha Baron Cohen kind of looking guy. He looked hilarious, like chin strap beard and have a pipe, and he's walking around the place just shirtless, staring at walls blankly. Really weird AI, honestly. But the building mechanics of the game where you're like, I'll build a little escuela, I'll build a school for my people, or a clinica, or all this kind of stuff. And it's done in a very kind of nice desert, tropical island. I don't know if that's generated or it's always static. I imagine that's static. It's basically a donut island. And you start off and it's a little bit less controlled than like SimCity. So you don't build a certain grade of road. You just say, okay, A to B, this is where the dirt road goes. And the more populated it becomes, it will eventually upgrade to like a tarmac road. And it's similar with the people that you have in there, like the population. If you don't build homes for them, they'll literally be happy just to build shanty towns like in the worst parts of your place and just drag down your economy. And it's amazing. So the gameplay is great.
Did you play Little Cities? I think that's what it's
Yep.
called. How would you compare this?
Little Cities felt like it felt more like a relaxation app than a city sim to me, because you aren't like into the hardcore management like in Cities VR, right? It's not like the management side where you're focused on tax and economy and all of that as much. I'd say Little Cities I really liked it. It was easy to make roads. It was easy to create little, jurisdictions and then slowly build up, but it felt almost handheld. Tropico doesn't mind if you feck up your society, and my God, I did. You can overspend and then get indebted to governments. You're fighting for political power between like the U.S., Korea, Russia, like all this stuff, and you're just some little island. And so the political powers play part is fun. There is some management aspect to it in terms of like taxing your people and giving them tax breaks or whatever. So I felt like it was satisfying from a management sim perspective. I think it would give me longer longevity than like Little Cities, but it looks god awful. That's the truth of the matter. As a game that should have been a better quality port, there's plenty of headroom for the devs to come in and patch up to the point where they're using Quest 2 or Quest 3's real potential. So I don't know. I don't know what other platforms it's on, but Tropico was fun. I loved my kingdom of unsuspecting banana huts. It was quite cute. I'll go back to it, is what I think. So it's not just a single play, but it looks terrible. It looks truly terrible. So I hope they do fix that, because the game itself, the core game, would probably get me into playing like flat Tropico. I always saw it years ago, but I never got a chance to play it. So.
Tropico's fun, and I'll be curious how was the soundtrack? Did they bring back you wouldn't know of a comparison, but I would always have those songs in the background of my head, just like doing normal tasks, and I got the Tropico music in the back.
My chat loved the soundtrack. They were like, this is the shit. It's just like real chilled out, but like
Peppy,
I'd call it island life kind of like how would I describe it?
Island life.
Very I wouldn't say Jamaican, but
were you an island boy?
Well, I was when I was growing up, so it just felt like being that.
I think Adam got a reference.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He's a shame of the clan.
Over the heads. Yeah, Skyline was another one. That's another VR kind of game. So that's my highlights. Those two little games. Those were my joy over the last week and two. With that, I think it's a good time that we mention this week's sponsor. So thanks to Kluge Interactive with the Bebop in-game Synth Riders. We were just talking about having a good time with music, and their brand new DLC. For those unfamiliar with this game, it's a giggity good time. If you're used to DDR, Gramps, well, get with the times and get your wrinkly old behind into Synth Riders. Punch the air, glide down a seamless track, and bop away to these glistening tunes. This is better than your AM radio. Oh, yes, sirree. It's got the pizzazz you need, and straight from the 80s. They've got a DLC pack inbound to get excited for. That's just launched this week. And it's got, we want you to get in the groove and slim up for summer. Don't forget the Marco Polo pool party, because yes, Synth Riders brings multiplayer and cross-platform play capability across a number of platforms, including the recent Apple Vision Pro. You can play on your favorite VR device. And as pioneers out in the front there, Kluge are keeping it very real indeed. You got to grab your grandma, put her back on the dance floor. And since April 18th, we've got to be back in the 80s. It's got things like Aha's Take On Me. There's Phil Collins in there, Starship, Devo, and INXS. Songs are $2 a pop, cheaper than a can of Coke at the drive-in, and only $8 for all 5. There's also a new stage for everyone who has the game already. That's free. That's called Endless Cafe, just to get you in the right groove for this. And one thing I will mention, having checked out their awesome advertisement, which is similar to the Take On Me music video from back in the day, I noticed a very purposeful exit. Now, this is 80s mixtape side A, and towards the end of the video, they tease at the lady who's operating her cassette tape player as she switches from side A to side B. You caught that too, Adam? I was like, when I saw that, I was like, you cute devils.
More's coming.
More's coming. And to be honest, once you get bebop into this stuff, you're going to want side B too. So very glad to have Synth Riders in again for this episode. Thanks, Kluge. And thanks again for sponsoring today's episode. Any other thoughts on Synth Riders, guys?
So fun, the 80s pack. Like I like the music, like the selection is ace. Hopefully pack B, if I could go my way, just fill it up with Phil Collins. Just all Phil Collins. Like I'm a Phil Collins like stan.
That's a good question. What would we ask them for? I'm sure they've already got it planned. Actually, they probably already picked their tracks. But who would there be? I'm trying to remember. My parents used to have. I can't remember. It's going to come to me later in the podcast, and I'll mention it then. Anyway, with that, let's get on to the news. So, as Rowdy mentioned in his highlight, Meta have recently launched Llama 3 to the open schools of fish on the web. And I want to highlight some of the things that are fun. And it's not something that usually takes much interest from me, but again, having Rowdy in Discord means I usually have to pay attention to these things. But had a bit of a play with this one. Their aim is to compete with other leaders like OpenAI's ChatGPT and they're offering text prompt responses and an Imagine feature, which boasts an impressive draw time and a cool animation capability, which brings your thoughts to life. Rowdy, I don't know if we're going to be able to do this, but I'd love to do a live demonstration with chat trying out a couple of prompts. So chat, give us a couple of prompts and we'll create the images and animate live. Let your imagination.
The images will work because you need to log in, I think, for the images.
Do you not have an account? It's a pity that I can't. It's okay. Don't worry about that. So
a Meta account or specifically like
you need a
Meta for AI account?
Facebook account.
Oh, Facebook.
You have a Facebook account. Now, I know there's integration. So Meta's got a standalone website. And this is the thing that kind of impressed me the most about this, aside from the fact that the open source news, which is much, much bigger than what impressed old Zim. But the fact that you go to meta.ai to just try this out. You can do it now live while we're doing the podcast. And you can enter prompts like you can in ChatGPT. There's no subscription to it, which is pretty neat. You're obviously feeding them your prompts and they're getting to know you a little bit better. If you decide to log in with a Facebook account, then you can do their equivalent of, again, drawing pictures. I was doing this a little bit earlier. I had them create a keyboard for a gorilla, show these big chunky keys in a gorilla in a business suit. And then I clicked the little animation button and it turns it into a little video, almost like a Vine. But it's all animated and it was done on the fly. And I would actually say quicker than I was probably more familiar with ChatGPT's GPT-3 model. And I would say it was quicker to create than that. So I was pretty impressed at the open door capabilities. And my wife, for example, who pays for the regular recurring subscription, I was like, got to consider maybe we just turn that tab off and you can use this one instead. So like I was saying earlier to Rowdy's point, I do feel like there's a bit of a feeding frenzy because, hey, if I can get it for free, why would I pay? Is the kind of mentality a lot of people follow. But Meta aim for this platform to be the most intelligent AI assistant that people can use freely across the world. It's been integrated into a number of places, including Instagram's search bar, and it has real-time search from both Google and Bing. I thought that was really cool because one of the restrictions I had before with GPT was I couldn't ask it relevant day-to-day internet-savvy questions. I go over to meta.ai and I'm like, oh, I can actually just ask it direct things. I asked it a few questions about the podcast. I asked it about the weather, local sports teams, and that type of thing.
If you have a subscription with OpenAI, you are able to feed it data, though. Have it visit websites?
Yeah, I think my wife said that too. But like the reason this is kind of exciting to me, I think, is I'm still itching, and I do mean itching, on picking up another pair of those the Meta Wayfarer sunglasses with now that Adam, showcased for us the AI kind of integration, the talk through smarts that it has, limited albeit. And I think for someone like me who I don't usually keep a phone plan running while I'm out and about, it limits the usefulness of it. But even on the home front, I can use them. And because it's sunny out, it's like I need sunglasses, but they're bloody sold out. Those fucking transition lenses, the ones that you have, Adam, are sold out all over the place. So I don't know. They must be selling like hotcakes. I was thinking. This feature, by the way, so Meta's AI and the Llama 3 update is rolled out to a number of places it hasn't been before. So I'll just read some of those out in case you happen to be listening from Ghana, Malawi, New Zealand, Jamaica, Australia, Nigeria, Uganda, Zimbabwe. I'm always fighting with Zimbabwe over IP rights. Zambia, South Africa, Singapore, Pakistan, and the United Kingdom. Oh, and Canada, and the US. The US is in there too. They didn't forget about us. So I would say go give it a shot. I'm curious how this starts to influence people's behavior when searching and thinking and preparing. It does seem very easy to get to the front door, and it does a good way of like suggesting things for you dynamically that maybe you'd be interested in trying prompts. So it's even to some extent not letting you think for yourself. It's not just a blank chat box. It's like feeds you some ideas to start. I don't know where all this is going, but I can tell you, I always feel when I use chatbots like this, these AI assistants, it's like, I feel like they're blowing smoke up my ass. Like you're giving me the best, like harmonized answer you possibly could give me just so that I buy it and we move on, instead of me hitting you with a ruler and saying you didn't get it right. AI.
I really like what you said about like how it programs people's behavior.
Right.
Because I just sent it to Rowdy. Something really cool to share. But Meta actually released a trailer for the AI release using Mark Zuckerberg's, like, if everybody has noticed the last few months, he has been like doing a lot of side quests and showing up in a lot of places. They used all of that as marketing for the Llama AI, because they show him asking questions and then following that up with his journeys, which is something that a lot of people are starting to really talk about, which is by asking questions, people feel like they're doing, let's say, the heavy work of knowledge gathering, getting you prepared to do a task. Like, hey, how do I get into equestrian, research? And then you just read up on that, and it gives you at least a good first step for you to just go out of your way to now just do it. Right. So I think that programming is like really well shown in that video that Meta released. It's pretty fascinating. You actually see Mark asking questions about swords, and you see him cutting down that. They showed that video that went viral recently with him cutting down stuff. But yeah,
that's cool.
It's pretty gnarly.
I would say one thing. Clueless has said in chat, not available in the UK. So this is really funny. And again, goes back to my blowing smoke up my ass comment. A little bit earlier, I checked out Meta's post where they were saying where it was being launched, and I noticed the UK was not listed. And I was like, that can't be right, because they're rolling out in Nigeria, and all these other places. And I thought, okay, Meta must be focusing on smaller markets, which is really smart, right? Get out there, block everybody else, like just get into the market as a freebie. And then I went back to the app. I went to meta.ai and I said, what countries are you available in? And it listed the UK. So I don't know. Maybe that's misinformation. If it is, it's coming straight from the source. So I don't know. Like I said, I don't trust the responses that these things give me yet. And my concern is, as I see it on the work front as well, like we are gearing up to a time when, we're going to get a level of assistance, I feel like, across all companies at the users engaging with a company, like for customer services or support, where all you get is that unintelligent response, which has been fed to them that they regurgitate to you, or it's just straight from an AI chatbot or something. And it's like, no one does any thinking. No one does any challenge, So I don't know how we're going to get past this phase, but it feels like a very wide uncanny valley when it comes to believing the response that I'm being fed as a consumer.
It's so funny because the people watching it are probably going to get a better laugh at this than the ones listening. But as you mentioned, not trusting the training, Rowdy showed the Meta AI video, and you see Mark Zuckerberg literally putting a prompt about learning how to pilot a helicopter. You see him flying a toy helicopter. But I agree. I think the learning stuff is very scary, especially if you still hear terms like hallucination in the feedback. That like it makes me think of like old. I forgot what the movie it was. I think it was like called Kong Pao, but it was like this. It was like a wacky movie, but there was like a martial arts quote unquote bad guy, but it turns out that the master trained them incorrectly on purpose, so he thought that losing meant winning. And I keep thinking about somebody incorrectly learning through AI, like.
But the problem is that, especially with the training and all this, like the way the corrective model works and evolves, there will be a sliver somewhere in it that's a bug, essentially a defect in the knowledge, and it will just keep compounding to the point where, like a callus, it's this hard thing that no one can break, and it's like that's not correct, and all of the language models have it, and we're all told. It's just I see that coming at us, and it's not the small little use cases that bother me. It's the marginalization of someone who's on the sideline. It's an action that a robot later infused with AI is going to take that's just silly. Like, for example, taking a Brillo pad and putting it into my sandwich and then feeding it to me. Like, something that a human would never do because we're a little bit smart, some of us anyway. And it's like I just feel like we're gonna find these situations coming up again and again. In our future.
Typically with any of these kind of like models and training algorithms and these kind of things, there are certain evaluation criteria that are being evaluated. You have something called precision, you have something called recall. That has to do with the amount of positive errors and negative errors that you get. For example, false positives, false negatives. And you can optimize these algorithms to either of those specific kind of categories. You can optimize a model for precision, you can optimize a model for recall. So you can play around with that a little bit to try and optimize those models. I know in the medical field that is being done a lot, for example, for the efficacy of a drug, or if you want to make a prediction of a diagnosis. You need to ask yourself, what is worse, predicting someone, for example, someone has cancer, but you predict that they don't have cancer? Or is it worse that if you have someone who does not have cancer and you predict that they have cancer? There are different implications, and you can make an argument for both of those kind of things, and it depends very often on the business model. But the way that these evaluations of these kind of models always work is that they try and optimize for either one of those depending on the specific use. For example,
right,
for the cancer diagnosis, it's probably, for a surgeon business, it's probably better to say, you know what, we want a wide screening, we're giving a lot of false positives, and then we do further testing to actually see if the person has cancer or not. But if, for example, it's a very expensive test, like for example, an insurance is not going to pay for a lot of false positives. They're more likely to say, like, okay, we don't want too many false negatives. So you're gonna start optimizing for different things. So these kind of models, and I mean, we're gonna go into the discussion probably a little bit later, but we're not at a point, at least in my opinion, where any of these kind of models can compete with human intelligence. These kind of models are to be used by humans. They make things more efficient, easier to use. Your productivity will increase. That's the goal of these kind of models. And eventually, I do think that a large part of the work that we do on a typical basis is going to be replaced by these kind of models. But that's not going to be like a switch where all of a sudden this is going to happen. This needs to be integrated, validated, tested. And that's why it's important, I think, to have these kind of discussions about this, because it's not so that these models will just be put into place and start making errors left, right, and center before they have gone through rigorous testing. And I know we're talking a lot about the LLMs, but the LLMs are only a very small portion of like the entire like scene of AI that has been going out there. And sure, they're very much in the media because they do so much. It's still just text generation. You can use these kind of text generation models to build them in your data pipeline and then introduce these evaluation criteria to actually perform sets of testing. So that's I'm not scared of that specifically. I think I would be more scared of like what is happening with the data, what data is being used. You have selection bias, the evaluation criteria that are happening after the models. What are those like? What are we optimizing for? I think that's the more complicated thing that we need to try and answer.
I think I would give you a little bit of pushback, even though I agree, because like there's something that I feel like you're not accounting for that terrifies me the most. And you said that this cannot surpass human intelligence, but I feel like when the people that say that are very smart people. Like I don't want to sound disrespectful to most people I know on a day-to-day basis, but
love it.
like
but I'm
he
not
means
saying
now, right?
I'm saying right now.
Like,
This
He's
is
saying right now.
This is not like this is just a language prediction model. This is not intelligence. For a model like this
I
to be
agree with that.
intelligent,
But I think Jose's saying right now too, right?
Yeah, I am saying right
Bottom
now.
of the
Like,
pyramid.
here's the thing though, like I obviously it has gotten much easier, but when like the AI boom was happening, for example, and this is something that happens to me on a day-to-day basis as somebody who runs a company, we get a lot of suspicious, and they're getting eerily better to the point that you don't know if it's a human or an AI writing them. So I may not be falling for them, but if I even sometimes give a double take, imagine the people that are not giving that the double take. So they're being fooled now. These systems
like for example, like those email scams, they're gonna get way better. Like phone scams are gonna get way better. Like scamming is gonna become a lot better. Like it's just gonna be able to do it much better.
Wait. That's a very funny way to frame scams.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is we're all going to be duped a lot more. And
I think so.
Like, that is from my bank. Oh, wait, hang on a second.
God, that happened to me. I thought somebody in the Impact Reality Discord was a bot, but they were actually a human because they had like the Mid-Journey image, and their Discord uses a lot of bots to do automation things. So when they're like, "Oh, I'll hand this over to this person," she's like, "Hi, I'm so and so's assistant," and I'm like, are you a real person? I couldn't be 100% sure. And then, they laughed at me and it was fine. But it was
yes,
weird.
I am real.
Yeah.
Totally real.
But up until this point, let's say before that, ChatGPT came into existence, a lot of the AI, the machine learning, the deep learning models, they were very much aimed at a specific task. So they would do one thing specifically very well. Now all the hype is about, general artificial intelligence, something that can kind of do everything. Like you don't need to have a specific model for doing, and we're not there yet. Let me make that clear. We're not there yet. But these LLMs and these chat models, because they're so well trained, they're so big, I've seen so much data, text data, they can give that impression of general knowledge. So they give the impression that if you ask them questions, they give you answers, and those answers are fairly well structured, they're fairly well written, they're not necessarily always true. That's
this is the problem.
But they're getting better at that. They're getting much better at that.
But the confidence in these systems is my biggest bugbear. They come back to you like showing you, they're like, oh yeah, I'll give you an answer. Here's the answer. I always feel like it's an 8th grader handing me a report. Like, I don't buy it. Did you write this? Is this real? And if I fact check it or I ask for the opposite thing, it gives me something that looks almost the exact same, just with some negative language in there. And it's like, hang on a second, pick a side. Yeah. So that's my main problem right now, and I do not feel comfortable trusting the output.
But that's why I'm saying that these models are tools to be used by people. For example, if you
Good
have
for
an
coding.
illness, if you have an illness, you can ask ChatGPT, these are my symptoms. What diagnosis do you give me? Right? You can do that. And ChatGPT or whatever model that you're using will give you a diagnosis. It's not necessarily a real diagnosis, and I wouldn't trust the diagnosis either. But if you now go into a medical field and you, for example, have a doctor that sees, hundreds of patients a day, and, he has, for example, an application that records audio. That audio gets summarized by textual models into like specific kind of sections. The doctor, a diagnosis is predicted. The doctor looks at the symptoms, looks at the predicted diagnosis, and verifies, yes, this diagnosis is correct. No, this is not the diagnosis that I would give. And that input loop gets you get a feedback loop, and the model gets retrained for that specific purpose. Those are kind of things that I see as very valuable because it reduces the amount of time that the doctor has to spend on reading through enormous amounts of text or more large documents, summarizing, condensing information. That's what's been done before ChatGPT a lot as well. It's a lot has been condensing information, but it would now also go into generating information, which is a little bit more complicated because where is this generation coming from? But there is large value in that. But I do think that especially for these kind of crucial decisions, we still need that human in the loop. But the amount of time that human in the loop needs to spend is going to be less. So that's what my impression.
Well, I don't know. And so what's the best use of this new savvy technology that say, I know you and Adam use this kind of a bit. So either of you have got a use case to share with people, like things they should be considering doing then with
Well, if you're a coder, it's debugging. I think having an error code and being able to fill it in, and it basically searches through the entire database of Stack Overflow and every other user that's ever encountered it to summarize that information and give a structured response as to like how to approach that. That's a major time saver. It's not always right, but again, you can test it and validate it. That human in the loop, right?
I think it depends on your profession. Like for me, because I'm in marketing, I only use it for marketing purposes to write copy, because a lot of creative tasks that I'm just like, I don't want to do this because brain not working today. So maybe I am part of the percent that Jose's talking about. I'm the very dumb people, but great for, as long as what I use it for is, so I'll let it know, the target audience, which I guess if you start a new company, technically you can have AI help you come up with a target audience to begin with, which is crazy, but you put in your target audience, company, product information as much as you can feed it, and then I'll have it help me come up with content ideas for TikToks or announcement copies for specific
just
updates,
brainstorming, right? Just brainstorming with it and having that feedback platform is so helpful in trying to get the structure.
Yeah. I will say that a lot of times I have to edit out, like it'll give me the good main idea, but then I have to go in and it gives me way too many adjectives. I have to like get rid of a lot of the adjectives. It's too like immersive. Like it loves immersive for some reason. That's its favorite adjective, I swear. But it gives me at least a structure to use, and I just have to chop out and maybe rearrange a couple things. But that would have taken me like a couple hours to sit there and be like, how do I put all this information into something concise that will fit in a tweet or will fit in a Discord post that's not going to be, this long thing. And that saves me a lot of time, and I use it almost every day. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well,
one of my buddies calls it a productivity calculator. And that's like a really good way, because how calculators are used for like math equations to like sum up the time. It's for productivity. I use it a lot for brainstorming. I think that's one of the use cases that I think why it's so buzzed around in the startup and enterprise world is because it's really good with like preparing a business model or preparing a target audience analysis of what customers you're going to be talking to. It's really cool for that, which that's the reason probably why it scares me the most, because it goes back to scamming. It's customer service is if there's value, it's a service. If there's no value, it's a scam. So it's same process when you really think about it. So it's, I don't know. I really think that the human factor in this should be really reconsidered, and I think that's also a level of respect that we have now for other fellow people, that we don't take it. The reason I'm bringing that up, because I love reading books about AI and computer history, and AI is something that researchers in computers have been talking for a very long time. And there is a specific documentary called I think it's like the machine that changed the world. And there's a specific part in this documentary about AI, and they talked about how AI eventually could, outsmart humans. And it felt disrespectful, like if you see it today, but they used somebody who visually you could tell had some mental ineptitudes. I don't know how to say impairments. Yeah. And they made that comparison that, maybe not the mainstream human may not be outsmarted, but we don't take into account how many handicapped humans we have in our planet. Yeah. And that's the real threat. It's the handicapped. It's the people that don't have the mental safeguards to say, is this an AI or not?
Yeah, for sure. 100%.
Definitely, it's an interesting tool, and we'll keep keeping an eye on it. The cool thing is that I like that. I kind of like that Meta's in this race. They can be distracted from posting silly pictures in the metaverse, and instead focus their energies here a little bit. But just kind of coming off the AI topic, unless anyone else has anything else to say there, I'm going to pivot to Meta in the education space. Jose, thanks for spiking me this link a little earlier. So Meta had previously launched MetaQuest for Business, right? And in a similar play, they're creating yet to be named, but I'm going to put air quotes around this as I say it, Meta Quest for School product that will allow multi-device management, like with their business line, the creation of synced up training experiences, and of course, helping to train educational buyers how to procure batches of hardware from Meta warehouses. Jokes about procurement aside, this seems to be another copycat from Meta, in my opinion. 10 years ago, we had a company, Engage XR, founded around this similar purpose. And they've brought a platform to educators and event organizers alike. This kind of place that you could go with props in a pseudo classroom environment and travel to a place together, be back in a classroom. What's just airing there on screen, actually, is a video from 2 years ago from Meta, where they were exploring the concept of education for VR, but it looked like one of the levels in Assassin's Creed VR.
Yeah.
It really got me thinking. I was like, did you guys use prefabs from Assassin's Creed in one of your for one of your upcoming game projects? I don't know. The two seem to be too closely linked, in my opinion, but the timeline would be right. But that to one side, yeah, Engage was a really cool platform, still around, still being used for event organizers and educators, as I said. Some universities use it. And that's just something, that's another one of these companies, VR companies that have been around, in this case for 10 years. And then you've got Meta coming on the scene yet again, like Meta do. And they're like, that too, we're going to do that.
Meta do.
Exactly.
Meta see,
and, and it was just interesting to say that, kind of like, Horizon, when it moved in on and encroached on, VR chat and Rec Room and alt space. With Horizon, the problem that I see that Meta has not done well. When they were Oculus, when they were Facebook, when they were Oculus by Facebook or Meta by Facebook and Oculus, like the whole way along, one thing they don't seem to do very well, which on the flip side, we've seen Apple do quite well, is cross-app integration. Like they tend to set up an island and then develop that island by itself, and it'll be an isolated product. And then they'll do another one and another one. And the only thing that we've seen in recent times that's really stuck, I would say, is the Meta avatar system and the universal menu, which is going across their headsets. But even that doesn't have the same feature set on every device. So if you are hopping from device to device and app to app, you see some consistency, but really not enough for someone who's the platform owner. So with them now considering to move into this, scholastic area and bringing about, for educators, a couple of, headsets in a classroom, be able to see something. I just wonder how that's going to pan out. And I'm curious about all your opinions about this. Maybe Jose first. You spiked me the article. So
yeah,
what are your thoughts on this?
I'm glad you mentioned Engage. That's exactly what went through my mind. I made a joke just a few seconds ago, Meta see, Meta do, but that's exactly what it is they're seeing a lot of traction now in the education and training space. They're seeing a lot of companies that are bringing value there. And at the end of the day, Meta Quest or Meta themselves, they're seen as the proprietor of the hardware. They're not really seen as the hand-holded, trusted vessel for the adoption into being that conversation, which means that it ends up breaking their business model. And that's what I wanted to mention earlier about when Rowdy was talking about Meta, how they have these incentives, but they're proving that they're not really about that when it comes to VR, right? Because they're signifying, hey, we don't want anyone to bring value to our ecosystem except ourselves. We want to own the entire process. We want to bring in, value through adoption, but it has to be handled through us. It's our infrastructure or none at all. There's Engage
AI stuff. It's like, hey, AI to everyone, but VR, like, hold on, wait, let's put some barriers in place.
Unless do you think they learned from the years the years in VR and now they've changed their ways, or do you think it's just a strategy? Is it just a strategic
I'll give you
move?
A better one. Meta's not known at this moment for AI. So if you open source a competitive business model, now, if anything, you devalued a competing industry and you brought the attention back to VR, right?
Was there a counterpoint that Rowdy had earlier? That's what I'm trying to, because I don't I had a similar feeling to what Jose said about they're saying here's a free product. Is your argument basically, Jose, anyone else, any other business who's going to try to take a step up now has a much higher barrier to entry because they can't offer a free product. Yeah. So it's like you've got to beat the racehorse and have people pay for it.
No, I don't agree with that. I'll explain why maybe really briefly. Is that there are only a couple of companies on the planet that can offer these kind of models. Amazon can do it. They are doing it. Microsoft can do it. They are doing it. Apple can do it. Nobody knows really if they're doing it, or they probably are doing it somewhere, but they're doing it behind closed door. And of course, Facebook is doing it. And then you have some, big Chinese companies that are also doing that as well. There is no small company that can develop a model or train a model, at this point at least, that can compete with something like Llama 3, with GPT-4, with Claude, with any of these kind of big industry-backed models. So I don't see the open sourcing of the model as like, we're now, all of those companies that wanted to develop their own models, they now can't do it anymore. It's the opposite, because they can now use the models to actually train it for their specific business case and go into this market. Because the model itself is not what you're selling. It's what you're doing with that model. That's the big thing. But wouldn't that
model dictate rules of how you use that model?
No, because it's open source, so you can
their own model.
You can do that. You can download the model weights. You can adjust those weights. You can train them for specific use cases. It's a large language model, so what the model can do is limited, just like GPT-4 is limited. But
the motivations here aren't totally altruistic. Like from Meta's perspective, they're jockeying into a position where I'm
not saying it's altruistic. I'm not saying it's altruistic. I'm
not arguing with you.
I'm just saying it's altruistic in that sense.
No, I agree. I think the point of a business is to be that animal that stays alive. But
the reason why they're doing this is so that all of those companies that want to go into AI will now have the choice. Either I'm going to pay OpenAI for a non-transparent model. I need to pay them the subscription fee, the API key, that model will be locked in, or I deploy it myself on the local site. I don't share any data with anyone else. With OpenAI, you can opt out of that. The data is not always being shared, but still this sort of within certain industry, there's regulations with where data can go or where data can't go. Sometimes it needs to be housed locally or in the same state. So that complicates things. And local models that you can deploy yourself on the cloud and scale like that have a large interest from a lot of industries. And it allows people in the garages to start AI businesses without any money.
So what you're saying is Meta is not winning anything per se here except devaluing the competitors.
No. What Facebook or what Meta here is winning is that they're positioning themselves very strongly in any other company that wants to go into the AI field. I'm not saying they're devaluing the model, because the models are there. The models are to be used.
Well, not devaluing the model, but their business model. Because if you have a free option, you're not going to pay for the alternate, right? So if you are now cutting off the funding.
But it's not as simple as that. It's like you need the technical skills still to deploy the model, develop the model, to train the model. You need to buy instances that run the models. All of that overhead costs. It's like, for example, when you buy a gaming server or you buy a GPU. Well, if you have a GPU, you can run the game yourself. You need to install it. You need to install Steam. You need to install the game itself. But if you buy a gaming server, then, like, for example, the Xbox Gaming, you buy a subscription fee to that. You press play and bam, it plays the game. But you pay a subscription fee to that. And now with OpenAI, what you do is every time you send a request to that API, you pay a certain amount of dollars. But you don't need to deal with all that technical knowledge. You don't need to know. You can just prompt it. You get a response back. So that's easy. But if you want to customize that model, you can't do that with OpenAI. OpenAI does not share those weights. That's their business model. Those mazes are specifically for them. Nobody has access to them. Llama 2 got leaked. The Llama 2 models got leaked. I don't think they really got leaked. I think they got published. I don't think that Facebook would leak that. But Llama 3 now is specifically made open source, which means that anyone can download those weights, play around with their weights, can do whatever they want with it.
But it reminds me of like free creator tools or like Unity's business model, where they're like, you can use it, but then when you start to get to the point where you want to sell or integrate, like later, you're going to pay. As in, there's something inherently
weird, and I don't know how to put it into words, and maybe it's just because this is such an abstract way of open sourcing something, where usually open source is an immediate like lockdown value to the local user, but you're telling me that you could use this to build upon it and build your own company or AI trainer. So it's there's a complexity there. It's like, you're telling me that you're giving me all these tools to build my own house, but what do you want in exchange? And you're telling me that there's nothing there to look at. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, but if I have this house and I have all these tools and I'm learning really well how to build these houses with these tools, wouldn't that make it difficult for even the bigger companies that you mentioned to even get a foothold in? Right? There's something like,
if you want to build the house from scratch versus having kind of like a starter kit, like prefabs that are already. So it's like, if you want to go build your house from scratch, you can. But a lot of people, maybe like me, are like, that's a lot of work and it's really intimidating. Mm-hmm. I want something that maybe I have to pay more for the convenience, but it's easier to build and get a hang of myself. Like, I don't know if that makes sense.
Is your house made of Lego, Adam? Is this why it's all green behind you? Is it all just green blocks?
There are different advantages to either method, I think. It's also, of course, like you have an opportunity cost and you have a building cost that comes associated with developing these kind of tools. Either option is available, but for some businesses don't have the choice to use the OpenAI models at all because of regulations, strict regulation. So now having an open source model,
cross-border data requirements is something that is very serious for global businesses, right? Wow, and so having that local model that you can import, put on your infrastructure, use securely is a big deal for a lot of businesses, especially global ones. I had a question though, kind of to Adam's point about, building with the building blocks, so to speak, or the starter kit. What I don't see in here, I'm getting the gist of what you're saying, Rowdy, but I'm trying to secure that maybe for me and the audience is, how does this play out for Meta 2 years from now, 3 years from now? Because like the way I'm hearing it is, if you use the models that you've received, the Llama, you've downloaded it, you've configured your business structure as a result. In that space, a lot of companies are already leapfrogging because of advances in that space, which are happening so rapidly. Is the idea then that if I've built my business off of Llama 3, then it will make most sense and be the least outlay for me to come back and plug into Llama 4, Llama 5, like to recast my build without starting completely from scratch? Is that the idea?
No. So the majority of the tools that are out there that leverage these kind of models and allow you to build these kind of agents. For example, a very popular one is LangChain. Another one is Llama Index, where you kind of like, instead of building everything from the ground up, you basically plug certain things in there and plug them out. So you can plug, a ChatGPT, GPT-4 model, you can plug it in there, and that framework will basically do everything behind the scene in order to make sure that
modular
works. Yeah, so it's modular. So you can say like, okay, I want to use, GPT-4 is best for this specific purpose. And you can use different GPT models.
So hence your graphics card analogy, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you can kind of plug in that module. And if you have a local model running, like for example, Llama 2 or Llama 3, or you have it running in a cloud instance, whatever it is, as long as like the structure is built for like that specific framework, you just use the framework. You don't even need to change it. You just change one line of code which specifies,
just a pointer.
Yeah, it's like a pointer. Cool. And then the API pulls everything through that.
Okay. So again, I'm still like I feel like they're going with the net to net a very large market and a big part of this market share in the competition against OpenAI.
The thing is, this is mainly development. That's what they're aiming for. Development, because they're open sourcing this and they want people to develop stuff with this. That's what they're doing.
And what's the advantage? So this is the thing. So they were underscoring, and we'll come off of this soon, but they were underscoring that Llama 3 was specifically targeted to be better than their competitors at coding, at code-related prompts. And I'm curious, like, again, I'm not seeing the next step for them. And normally with Meta's plays, I can see it. It's transparent. They're copy this business. They're move into a market because it's a market share play, like the Quest 2 thing that we mentioned earlier. Sometimes they're quite transparent, smart, strategic plays. This one looks very smart for throwing the net and catching a large population, but I don't see how they make money off of it. Is it?
I don't know. I don't think that their plan is to make money off of Llama 3 because then they wouldn't open source.
Right.
The long-term plan here is open source the model, and everyone will be using this model to develop their next tools because it's open source. You can download the weights, you can work with it, you can modify the weights, you can train specific models. And the big difference between this and other models is that you can't download the weights, for example, from GPT-4 and modify the task that it does. You can't do that. Because what GPT-4 does is what GPT-4 does. Llama 3 is not like that. You can modify that model specifically.
They're not even, this is the thing. Most companies in the last 20 years have gone after user data because it's inherently valuable to them. Because of the localized nature of this, they're not even collecting and posting back to home.
They're not collecting
that information.
No, they can't because the model is
trying to.
I don't get it.
I'm telling you, they did this to bring value. When you say it out loud, that's literally what keeps going. That's what has been playing on my mind for the last 2 days since the announcement. I really think that this was a play for Mark to solidify its meta name. I think it's a metaverse strategic value.
It's a strategic value because now all of the companies that want to move into this AI space, they're gonna consider this as an option because it's non-proprietary software. You know, they can download their own weights, they can modify the weights. It's linked to their own business. The data stays within the company, so there's a lot of advantages in that. Which means that all of these frameworks that are being built are going to be integrating this specifically as an option as well. So all of the tools, and this is the same. Why have they developed PyTorch? They don't make any money from PyTorch. But everyone is using PyTorch. Why?
All right, you're just making me hungry now. We got to stop talking about pie. We got to. I can't do it. Wait, quick one. Everyone's favorite pie. Go. What's your favorite pie?
I'm basic. I like apple, but French apple. It's got.
What's French apple? Is it the sprinkly?
I think the crust is different. I think
with a lattice, or is it a flat surface?
No, it's a lattice. Yeah.
Oh yeah, good choice. What about you, Jose?
Pecan pie.
If pecan pie is nice. Rowdy, if you say PyTorch, you're off the podcast forever. Right. Go on. What's your favorite pie?
Why, is cheesecake a pie? Not really.
No.
Yes.
Damn it.
Yes, in my book.
It's a Christmas special. All right.
Then I have to say, but it's a Dutch one. It's called smurfentaart.
How do you even Google that?
You know the stroomf? I don't know, like the little blue guys. The little blue guys,
Smurfs?
cartoons. Yeah, Smurfs. Yeah, Smurfs pie. Yeah, look it up, Smurfs pie.
That sounds like you're eating Smurfs.
Yeah, but they're all just mashed together, put through a blender.
Oh my god. Okay. Definitely need images of that one maybe later. And then for me it's banoffee. I like banoffee pie. That's my favorite. It used to be pumpkin pie. For years I loved pumpkin pie, but banoffee pie.
Banoffee, I've never heard of banoffee pie.
It's banana and toffee together. It's kind of a complex thing with a heavy buttery biscuit base.
I thought toffee was something that people make jokes about eating, but they never do.
Okay.
Look, I'm not lying.
Random.
Just joking.
This is too fun. All right, sorry. I've taken us on such a tangent. We were talking
it's like
very
a heavy
serious
whipped
stuff.
cream top. That's almost cheesecake-ish.
Almost. It's got a
That's
cream
it. Rowdy
filling.
just
looks
threw.
like a very disappointed pie. That was it's just crust and whipped cream.
Shut up.
Gotta love the
Judging your
European
pie
flavor.
tastes.
That's it. That's it. Okay. Well, with that, that's we talked about Meta AI. We talked about the educational side and a new product coming from Meta later this year. And with that, given we've gone in so deep, why don't we go even further with Adam having taken a dip into Subside and tell us all about that.
Yeah, so actually, I guess the developer mentioned it's just one guy, by the way, that he was
Is it?
supposed to. Yeah, he
Wow.
just started a Discord recently too, and he's just like, "Hey, it's me, and the rules are just be nice." It's really cute. But yeah, just one guy. He was supposed to release a demo, I guess, during one of the Steam Next Fests that
Yep.
they're gonna have recently. But he just, I don't know if it was an accident or he was just like, screw it. But he released the demo early. And I had been keeping an eye on this one on Twitter for a while because it's Unreal Engine and it's basically an underwater based like underwater swimming game, and the way that the physics of the water and the way that the light shines through the water and even the things that are underneath it, like the behavior of the fish, it's just it's crazy. Like it looks beautiful even in the demo, and I have like a 3070 GPU and it was fine running out. 'Cause that's another thing I was worried about. I was like, oh Jesus, like what's this thing gonna require? But my 3070 was okay with it.
Wow.
And I had a lot of fun with it. It took me. There were some issues with the index, I guess, because I'm assuming he only has like a quest. Because again, one guy just like making this for fun doesn't have access to every single headset in the world,
Nice.
understandably. There were some index controller issues that he fixed super fast. As soon as I mentioned it on Twitter, he's like, "Oh, there's an update. Just update it." And I was like, "Oh," but the swimming feels a little. It takes some time to get used to because instead of traditional swimming, maybe where you're like it's kind of you do like a dog paddle. It was what it feels like underwater, and but it's interesting because it almost mimics the buoyancy of water well because it's actually hard to kind of stay
sorry.
under.
This
Like-
critique coming from someone who's just learning to swim, though. So I'll just say that.
Well, then that means I have the most recent experience, right? It was last
That's
time
fair.
you guys have been swimming.
Okay. You got us there. You got us there.
But it's really cool. Even the fish, like I said, the way that they move in the water is just so realistic. You get near them, and if there's a school of fish, they kind of do that like scared scatter, but not in a stupid way like some games do, where it's just like really fake and they're all going in the same direction at the same time.
Oh, the shoal of fish splits.
Yeah,
Or-
they'll split,
wow.
and there's different types of fish, and there's even I don't know sharks, but there's like a small shark, not the one that was in the video, but in the demo there's a smaller, less scary one that's very pettable looking. You wouldn't pet the great white, but yeah, it's beautiful, and I hesitate to call it a game because when people think of games, they're like, oh, where's the shooting, or where's my
Now
quest,
let me kill the
or
fish.
whatever.
Right.
Yeah, but so it's more like I was saying kayak VR. If you like kayak VR and you are more about the exploratory nature, because there's different things that you can swim to and find and collect, on the bottom of the it's not really ocean because it's a simulation, but I'll just call it ocean floor. And it seems like with those, you'll eventually be able to unlock stuff like fins to help you swim faster, or maybe like cosmetic stuff or whatever. So it's really, if you want to explore and just discover stuff and just appreciate how freaking cool this looks, like that's the kind of game this is. It's not like a hardcore objective based like go to point A to point B. No, the fun is exploring. And I really appreciate that. I don't think a lot of games do that, so I'm looking forward to it. And I know that go ahead.
No, is there a sense of scale when you look at the sharks? Because that looked eerily terrifying. And I'm like, do you feel
the demo didn't have the big one. The demo
Ah.
just had like a small one that you'd have at a touch tank. But yeah, you definitely, I could tell there were like tiny fish versus like pretty hefty ones, and it's really, really well done. In the demo, there's even like a sunken car that's all rusty and stuff. That there's a little marker thing you grab on the inside. But I'm really, really looking forward to this. And I do want to try to help the developer out. He's been having a couple issues with people that are having issues on the index, and he doesn't have one. So I don't know if anyone knows like a cheap place to get index headsets, because he said he wants one to be able to help test. And I
they're
think that
discounted. I just saw a comment about them being on sale for like for $400 or something for the full index kit.
That was on Tundra though, but that was just for the headset. 'Cause I saw what you saw.
Oh,
They
okay.
were only selling the headset, not the controllers, not the base station.
I was gonna say, wouldn't he just need the index controllers? Because I think the index itself is just the OpenXR.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I think he'll just need index knuckles, and he should.
Honestly, if you're that dev and you've created something that's nice, literally just put up a GoFundMe and people will fund you. Like, I mean,
yeah, that's why I figured. Like, I'll help him out because this is a beautiful, beautiful game made by one dude, and people are coming into his Discord like, this doesn't work with my my Windows headset.
Mixed reality.
Yeah, it's like one dude. I'm waiting for a Pimax person to be like, I'm having issues with Pimax. I'm like, oh, this poor guy. It's literally just him. Like, everyone calm down.
I'm always so impressed with single dev contributions to VR because you have to do so much. Can you imagine? Like even the simple stuff of like things that we'd be familiar with, like capturing a VR game, right? So that it doesn't look low frame rate or juddery or, doesn't have black borders on the sides, all that kind of stuff. Logo design, marketing, getting the word out there. I mean, the actual construct. I know that, is this Unreal Engine 4 or 5? Do you know?
I'm guessing 5 on the way it looks. If I had to guess, but I'm
amazing.
not 100% sure. But what cracks me up is like you're always going to see the people that are like, when's this going to be available on Quest? I'm like, this would not look like this on Quest. Are you kidding me? Like, what?
Yeah, that's
you're in hot water. Start sweating. That chipset trying to melt your face off.
I mean, that said, I mean, I've been pretty immersed in Ocean Rift's version on Quest, especially with the mixed reality. Like, I was pleasantly surprised in some of that, like what they can do with just blue shading your room and a feeling like you're in an aquarium is. And I've been tracking that app for like 8 years now, so it's not like it's new to me, but it's funny when something old impresses you again. But like you said, I mean, Kayak was great on PC. I thought it was quite a disappointment on PSVR 2, actually. I don't know, they didn't do something right about the game. It didn't feel right. But this one looks great, and it just gives me that want again. I loved Subnautica so very much. People heard it from me so many times. But like the fact that they gave up on that game and the beautiful colors and alien fish and all of that, I see something like this and it's like, it just brings me back. I just want a full fat game like this. But we're not far away. We've been spending all this time talking about AI. We didn't, spend much time talking about the connectivity to games. But the point is, when you've got game engines that look this good, prompt engines that can understand you now and create something compelling, including animations and vocals and audio, we're really getting bloody close to like putting in a prompt, getting a VR game out the other end, something playable, even if it's not very pretty at the start. This is where we're headed. It's bloody holodeck is coming and it's coming soon. So can't wait. I can't wait. Looks really cool.
I wanted to mention the demo's free on Steam. I don't think there's a end date exactly. So, if you want to try it out yourself, please do. It's beautiful. Again, the swimming motions kind of take some getting used to, and I guess you can kind of like rip and push along the bottom of the floor to help propel yourself, but you can't hold on for some reason. I think that's something I would have liked, is if you could hold on to rocks versus just kind of like propelling yourself off them. But it's gorgeous game.
So Subside or Hawaii, which one's better?
Well, Subside's gonna be cheaper.
Yeah, significantly cheaper than flying to Hawaii. Definitely got that.
Why not both?
That was a cool tip. Nice, Adam. I always love seeing something in PC VR kind of like catch people's attention because it just has so much more headroom to impress versus standalone. Okay, with that, let's go to our maybe most fun topic of the day, and the word that I struggled with so much that's in our title of today's podcast. Thanks, Adam. Robocalypse now, which I was like, Robopocalypse? How do I say this, right? Am I doing it right? Robocalypse?
The other one again. I like that one. Robocalypse.
That was a That was a tough film. But anyway, I want everyone to think as we're going through this segment, what's going to be your choice robot? If we were in a fantasy game, it'd be like pick a familiar. It'd be a magic bunny rabbit or a
no X-rated content.
Body shaming groundhog.
Let me rethink then. Hold on.
Okay, so your favorite robot from today, the ones that we pick. I want to know at the end of this segment, what would you choose? I'll come back on that.
So we're picking out of the ones you're going to show us, not our own made-up robot.
Correct, not something that you're dreaming up. But so just like in Bicentennial Man, you'll have to pick your sidekick. So think about it, because the robots we are going through today are task organized, and this is all thanks to Boston Dynamics constantly terrorizing the web with their robotics progress videos. We're going to talk about Atlas. The robot that many of you will be familiar with is danced around social media for many years now. And they originally said about 3 days ago, we're going to sunset our old, dusty, hydraulic humanoid robot. And the next robot, which they then spoke about in like the next breath a day later, is a fully electric robot. Now, I'm going to go ahead and Rowdy, take your time through these, by the way. I'm not rushing through these videos. So for 30 years, this company has been working away on building robots. After spinning off from MIT, they are dedicated, clearly, to building us the T1000, right? To have enough. I was going to say to have in our houses, but my brain filled in to have in our bedrooms. But, someone there is definitely thinking that. So in terms of a quick rundown on the Boston Dynamics discography, here's what we have, okay? There's a couple of things that they've done. They've traditionally focused on legged robots rather than humanoid, as their mission was to navigate unstructured, unknown terrain with ease for at least about a decade. So their first one, called Big Dog, was a horned bull, this giant mechanized bull. I don't know, they built it for funsies, I suppose, about 15 years ago. This thing looks dramatic. You would not get me playing around with this thing. It would gore you to death. So that's one.
That's my whip.
The super slow Toro, but it's like not really going
Jose doesn't
fast.
need to see the rest. He's like, I'm done.
I already made my decision. I'm writing this to AW.
Next section.
He's imagining riding this thing into town is the thing. Those are fucking Miami guys. All right. Next one is Spot. Spot is I'll call him a bomb defusal dog, and useful for first responders to a scene. And this is the one we saw all over the web. It looks very alien-esque, almost like a Protoss robot. And it just runs around the place. It's quite quick, and it can really climb quite awkward terrain. Kind of like if you were to throw it at Mars, you'd be like, this guy, Spot will be fine. We'll send him out there, grab some aliens, bring him back to Earth. The third robot from Boston Dynamics, I will be talking about other companies' robots too, is called Stretch. And I was imagining for myself, because I'd never seen this one before, I was like, what's Stretch going to look like? Well, Stretch looks like if you took my arm off right here, and you just cut it right off, and then you made it into a robot. So its main purpose is to help the Amazon delivery driver. So it sits in a warehouse with a bunch of suction cups, essentially, on it, and it'll grab packages off of a wall of boxes and throw them on a conveyor belt, and do that again and again and again. And then it brings us to modern day times again, and we're back with Atlas. Atlas being a chunky, almost gorilla-looking humanoid robot, and this is the one that they've recently sunset. And why did they switch? They went from Spot and what was his name? Stretch to Atlas when they wanted to apply robotics to a human space, a human area, right? So instead of trying to send in this bomb dog right in, or to go, help out on a construction site, they said we need a human-shaped robot now. So that's what they've got. There's a nifty video showing a robot on a construction site. I was going to say throwing a hammer at a human, but no, not that. Oh, he's already on to the new one. So Rowdy's showing you the new version of Atlas, which brings about a couple of important advances. First off, they're partnering with Hyundai for automotive manufacturing. But the purpose of bringing a humanoid robot is it's better suited for areas designed people, right? Tasks that they have in sight are things that are dull, right? Doing things repetitively for hours and hours on end. Dirty, stuff that's just absolutely filthy, or dangerous, where humans aren't really the best choice, but presently are the only choice that we have. So I'll just talk a little bit about Atlas for a second. Atlas was originally launched in 2013, and it weighed 330 pounds. So this thing was not lightweight. It's 6 feet 2 inches tall, so already we're talking Terminator grade. And now they've turned it into an all-electric, all-encompassing model that looks a bit like your baby cam turned into a robot. And it stands up in the most eerily of ways, with its back legs rotating over its spine and down, and then the whole torso lifting up and its head turning around like The Exorcist.
Face thing, dude. It looks like it's a sensor of some sort, or like the face is supposed to do something. Like, it looks like a intentional design, but I don't know what that is.
They haven't gone into much detail yet with that. So that is, I'll call it Atlas version 2, the all-electric Atlas. And that's the one from Boston Dynamics. So this is the one they've just announced kind of the last 2 days. It's meant to be the optical sensor. I believe you're able to get a live camera feed through it. They didn't show first-person footage yet. So let me talk about the other robots first, then we'll cycle back to Boston Dynamics. So I'm gonna have to keep up with Rowdy here now. He's showing, I think, the Sanctuary AI Phoenix robot, which is a black and orange general purpose robot that can be used remotely. So it's a remote control robot, but it can also be directed by its own Carbon AI control system. So you have the ability to kind of ghost in remotely and do something with this robot, or else it can operate with kind of a human by its side, I'll say. It's not meant to be completely by itself. So for example, this robot could make you a sandwich. And again, I don't know if you have the sandwich clip, Rowdy, it's pretty awkward. I do. But it has full body mobility. There are some scenes in this sandwich making video, by the way, that should be adult rated. But human-like hands with relatively fine dexterity slowly build a sandwich. Its running speed is a maximum of 3 miles an hour, so pretty much the same as me. And it's 5 foot 7 inches, same as my wife. So hey, watch out, Karen. You might have a replacement coming soon. So this thing sandwiches. That's right. Well, I'd love it if we had a robot that could just make me a meal, but it's here trying to, like, I don't know, finger the bread or something. It's very awkward. This whole video. Anxiety.
It's like open it up.
Something.
I would grab that bread off its hands and make the sandwich myself. If this is what the future of labor looks like, kill them all right now. Like, I'm not going to wait 4 hours.
Painful.
It's like misses. It's like misses in the trying to open the. Yeah, exactly.
And don't forget, this was a pre-cut bread. This was pre-cut.
That's a good point. Oh God. Okay, so that's Sanctuary AI Phoenix, right? That's the Phoenix robot, and that's got the Carbon AI. Now, if we move on to Figure, these all have like very funky names. They're all futuristic names, of course. But Figure 01, Figure being the company, 01 being their robot. Now, this is a robot that's a bit eerie, but has a cool color scheme. This one's specialty is that it integrates with OpenAI, and it can do speech-to-speech interactivity. So you can ask it to do something, it'll interpret the command, and then it will go and do something. For example, unload a tray of dishes, right? And the other interesting thing about that, given that Figure 01's robot has interactivity, is that it can judge its own work, right? Just like in ChatGPT, when you ask it something, it can kind of rate whether or not it thought it did a good job of following your instruction. But this one is a little bit more humanoid looking. Doesn't look like a human, but you can see we're kind of going in the right direction, and it can waddle along with a tray of whatever it's carrying there.
The first comment is just hilarious. It says, "When you're paid by the hour and not by the crate."
Seriously. I was thinking literally that. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is. Can you imagine waiting 4.5 hours for a package? It's like 10 feet away.
Yeah.
But it's not even the robot just picks it up and brings it a couple feet. It's really the belt that's doing more of the actual transporting faster.
Yeah, this one is. So this is Figure 01. There's, I think, a second video for Figure 01 as well. Show us that one.
Yeah.
I want to buy one of those belts. Forget the robot.
We could just literally put old people into labor and we'll get the same about percentage and speed. I'm just saying. Like we could get like people with like, 80 plus. Yeah, if they can lift at least 3.5 pounds and they can move, put them to work. Apparently, like this is what we want, right?
But so like so you saw it in action walking, but look at it now where it's in front of a bunch of dishes, right? And this guy's like talking to it. This one it's starting to look like something you could imagine like being at home, and you're like, mix me a drink, all right?
Yeah,
give me a gin and tonic.
My dishes are never that organized though. If they need washing.
Yeah. That's kind of like a modern day Codsworth, but slower a bit.
Little bit slower, yeah. So this guy is being very disrespectful, just dumping dishes, and he's like, organize it again. You didn't do it right. It's like one of those military dig the hole, fill the hole jobs.
This is the point where he smashes the thing on his head, like he just goes all wild.
This whole time,
turns bright red.
I'm just thinking Robo Recall. Robo Recall, the robots go bad and they start turning on humanity, and there's murders and comedy, and it's great. But that's a couple of them. So we've been through, let's see, I'm just going to recap real quick. So we've been through the Boston Dynamics robots, Atlas being the humanoid one, Sanctuary AI's Phoenix, Figure 01. Let's come to Tesla. I didn't know Tesla had a robot. So Tesla have one called Optimus, and they're on to Generation 2. It's got the ability to walk. It's got pressure sensors in the hands, just like most of these robots. It's got a fully articulated neck, an ability to balance, bend down, and all that kind of stuff. It's your very own Daft Punk cast member, really. So Optimus Gen 2 has a more human look. It's got that kind of strong black and white vibe that we see from Tesla and a lot of their stuff. And I think I've got, what do we have, 2 videos on this one? So, but just give me your thoughts about the Tesla robot as you're watching it walk around a bunch of Cybertrucks and see the introduction here on screen.
Is this one using, so only one of these is actually using ChatGPT, right?
Correct. Is like one of them has the OpenAI. The other ones are they're just robots at the moment with their own kind of central cortex.
I mean, this one looks maybe the most visually interesting, I guess. It's the prettiest. But yeah. I don't know any of them that have hands. All I can think about is one day they're just gonna like grab my neck and just crush with the power that only a machine could.
Why is the robot exercising though? I'm just
gotta keep it shape, man.
That's cute.
It's setting the right example.
Got some pecs.
The robot starts working out.
And now he's doing the Gordon Ramsay. Let's get what is this? An egg.
To crack the egg without, or no, maybe not.
No,
I don't know.
It's putting the eggs into a machine that I didn't recognize. I think it basically cooks the eggs, but that's Tesla's. So that's Optimus Gen 2. Finally,
most important part it can do.
Oh, you've got, this is the best part.
It's the end of
the
dance
party. Watch him groove out and dance.
Real. This looks like a bad CG dance party with robots.
It looks like this Grand Theft Auto Vice City nightclub dancing animation characters.
Exactly. So those are our options. Actually, going through this, it made me feel really sad for some reason. I don't know why, but I certainly appreciated. I don't know if any of you've seen it. Daft Punk, in 2006, released a full-length film. And I don't know if any would have seen this. It was called Electroma, and it had both of their characters in it in a populace of robots, and the underlying theme of this, with almost no dialogue throughout the entire, I don't know, hour and 10-minute film, was that these robots were trying to be human. So it was kind of reflecting on the whole, people trying to be more almost like a robot, like being able to do more efficient, all this. They were like putting putty on their faces. It was really bizarre. But the sad part is like towards the end of the film, which I suppose is well known, but like the bot gets so depressed that it decides to finish itself. And it's like, it's a bit dramatic. And then of course Daft Punk finished up and they showed this cut from that film, which just shows the two robots basically saying goodbye as they wound the band down to a close and said they were going to quit. That's a nice kind of depressing way of me asking you then what's going to be your pick across these robots. So I'll recap those. So you've got the Boston Dynamics had 4 different options. There was Big Dog, Spot, the scrappy little yellow guy, Stretch, the kind of arm, Atlas, the big chesty one, and then Atlas version 2, the electric kind of more svelte but creepy exorcist. And then you've got Sanctuary AI, who was the Carbon AI controlled black and orange robot. We had Figure 01, which was the Open AI infused one, which was doing the dishes. And then we had Tesla doing the workout in the dance party, Optimus Gen 2. So what would you guys pick? And what's your pick and why?
I stand by my decision. Mr. Bull got them all, so I listen.
Big dog.
No, it's Mr. Bull. Like something like that needs to be addressed with respect, and you pay its rent. You keep its batteries charged. That becomes like the boss.
Hell yeah, good choice, Jose. Good one.
Gotta go with it.
Rowdy, what are you picking?
I think I would go for. I think the Boston Dynamics one have the most character. They also produce, I think, the best videos. They have a nice hint of humor in them often. So I think one of those would be my pick. And I think then I'm gonna go for like their latest version. I'm excited to see what they're gonna do with it. The interesting part I always found about Boston Dynamics, I haven't followed them for the past couple of months really, or maybe the past year. But they've never really put a lot of emphasis on the AI integration. A lot of it has been often, structured coding, rule-based, and then actuators, and actually, using real physics in order to more or less predict things, rather than I don't really like the integration of the OpenAI, because all of that stuff is like any robot can probably do that with a simple interface in between, because it's basically what it's doing. It's using a voice command or a textual command, and then translating that into the code that the computer then translate into movement. So I don't think that that's complicated to do for any of these kind of robots or these developers. I think that the new Atlas, I'm excited to see from it, especially because they've done so much in this specific field. I just need a robot to dance with. So the only option I have is the Tesla, or it's the Boston Dynamics, and then I'm going for the Boston Dynamics because, maybe it freaks me out a bit less.
The electric Atlas, good pick. Yeah, for your dance partner.
Exactly.
There you go. Nice. Adam, what about you?
I'm glad that my thumbnail with Rowdy and the Atlas one, the current one, was accurate then.
That's a good point.
Even though it's kind of shooting him, but that's okay. I don't know what the face does. We don't know yet. But my pick would actually be Spot, because it doesn't have hands. And again, I have a weird fear about like these things are quite heavy, right? Like I don't know, what if, and I know there's not really AI of that level built into them yet, but it's just like the crushing force of just like imagining a robot just like, oh, here, let me help you with that, and then just I don't know, it's terrifying to me. And then they don't have empathy, so it's just you're gone. But at least Spot, like maybe with an accessory to stick on its back so it can deliver stuff to you. Even though it has a foot, I feel like it could still open a fridge or something. Like I just want something that can go get me stuff and bring it back. It's like a dog, and not a creepy.
Its head is a claw, though. It does have hands.
Oh yeah. Okay, then but it's. I don't feel like it can open wide enough for a neck, though. Maybe not.
It's got an attachment that goes onto its head that kind of reaches way out.
Perfect. So, see, I want Spot then. Just go bring me that drink from the fridge, or go bring me that thing. So
and it's got some sick dance moves. It's got some sick.
So funny.
I do have to say though, like, and maybe that's why I'm so appealed to it. But they have a lot of like white people dance moves. Like, it's not really that impressive.
That's the training data, bro. Wait till these become accessible. We start taking them to the clubs. That's when they start. Yeah.
I think they kind of dance like me at like a late Friday evening in the club. Like,
oh
lots
gosh.
of dogs, so it gets a pass, or dog-like, not really human. So it does the best it can.
You're always after those after the pet though, I'd say, Adam. So that's good. But
I was gonna mention that too. Like I'm sad you didn't mention like Sony's like iBot robot, the little doggy robots, because I love those.
I know. I actually think it's been too long since Sony released another robot in its own name. I would like to see another one because I was definitely one who I always wanted an animal companion or something like that. Now I've got 5, so maybe I don't need another one in robot form. But for me, it'd probably be Stretch. I'm really boring here, but I'm like, I don't really. I feel like it's quite inefficient in my household anyway, where we're kind of bringing groceries in. So like, there's a variant of Stretch that has wheels on it. So I'd be like, okay, doors open, front doors open, bring all the groceries in, load them into the fridge or whatever. I don't want to have to do anything. You just take care of that. And it'll just tuck itself nicely into a closet. And I never have to.
Melts.
Yeah, because it's going to take like an hour and a half to take it to the
That's
fridge.
better than my kids, I promise you. So anyway, so that was our rundown on what's new in the realm of robotics, which is a bloody complicated side of things. But we're saying goodbye to the old Atlas and into the new for Boston Dynamics. So keep terrifying us with all of your advances. I do appreciate it, but man, why do we have to invent awesome, terrifying sci-fi futures and then just work towards them? Like, why does that have to become our mission that we build the Terminator? I don't get it, but we're definitely doing it. We're gonna build a terrifying future.
I feel like that we're trying to make them all friendly looking. Like I think we nerfed the Atlas. Like I love the old school Atlas look, like that machine mechanical. Like that gave me a sense of security. The new one, just I don't know.
Yeah, the old one looked like you'd give him a hug, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the new one, especially stands up. But just imagine with that bloody like security camera face of it, right? Just imagine all of a sudden, Mike from Virtual Reality Oasis's face appears on there. Like people are gonna use it to like have conversations or meetings. This robot comes in the room halfway, sits down, and then its head rotates around and it's your boss. Like, no, I don't want that future.
Like with the older models, they still look robot-y. They're not trying to look human, but the closer to human they're starting to look, the kind of more creeped out we're getting on like, okay, hold on, you need your barrier. Don't start integrating with us or whatever. You stay over there. We need clear boundaries of what you are.
But quick counterpoint. Jose and I are playing underdogs, and our robots are in an actual ring, and we get to duke it out, and we're having Apple Vision Pros on our heads, and our faces are showing, and it's some kind of like battle bot thing in first person would be pretty badass, to be honest. I'd do that. So, with that, thank you for making all your wonderful selections. Chat, let us know which one you would pick. And with that, let's move over to Jose for releases.
All right. So first one I have here is, oh man, you thought that Robocalypse was hard. I got another one for you. And Architects. I think that's how it's pronounced. Anarchitects. Yeah. Inspired by Roblox and Gary's Mod, meet your friends in Anarchitects, a multiplayer social sandbox with deep physics. Create, play, and share using an easy-to-use drag-and-drop building system. Now, it's releasing on April 23rd, 23. Yep, April 23. About 3 days. It's an App Lab early access. It's free to play. Their introductory trailer. I don't know how I fully feel about it because they went with an animated trailer rather than showing gameplay. But after doing some research onto this, there's a reason it made a lot of sense of why games like Gary's Mod didn't really get a good trailer for. They really opened up a sandbox with a lot of tools that you can kind of build your games. And so as I was watching gameplay videos of this game, they show like people playing it looks like Gorilla Tag kind of physics and graphics, but people were jumping like, trampolines or laser guns with no specific story mode mechanic onto it. People were just inventing their games.
I just want to take a snapshot of our marketing professional's face looking at this trailer because like what did they convey? What I don't understand at all what I'm gonna play if I pay the money.
Yeah, honestly, the trailer was a bad idea, but it truly is that it's a virtual sandbox that people come in and they invent their own games. You see people putting trampolines and with guns, and so they're playing tag. So whoever gets shot with the laser wins. And so
show that chaos, like that could have been fun, and then you get to actually see what the game looks like. Like, how do I know the graphics are good or bad, or like what is this? I don't know.
I think it's because it's early access and the graphics do look pretty not great.
Any pictures?
Don't look at that. We won't talk about it.
Any pictures?
But yeah, there's some videos out there of gameplay. It looks pretty interesting. It's a virtual sandbox that's allowing people to experiment and explore and kind of make their own little mechanics. I think this is going to be good for like content creators that like to do just random shenanigans on Gary's mod and doing it with VR. So yeah, and architects, and also the name is pretty good. So.
Anarchitects Robocalypse.
Robocalypse. Yeah.
Robocalypse.
That's the sequel. But yeah, that's out on April 23rd. And the next one is, oh man, I guess it's the a lot of weird names. Convergence, but it's Convergence, but instead of it's VR.
I was like,
when they do that, it's so confusing.
Convergence.
Okay, I thought we were talking about versions for a second. I was like, what kind of VR game? All right. Convergence.
So this one looks, the reason I picked it is because it was like a little bit of a mechanics mashup. So it's an immersive single-player VR shooter with survival and horror elements. So it kind of says it from the get-go. A lot of Arizona sunshine and Into the Radius. Yep. It like a little bit of a mashup of both games with a little bit of like Arizona sunshine.
Yeah.
Story shenanigans. But yeah, so exploring an exclusion zone, scavenge for loot, fight bandits, and hunt for mystical artifacts. But yeah, no price yet. Yeah, April 22nd. It's PC VR, Steam Early Access. Yeah, so it's an indie studio. I think this is the first title. But yeah, that's Convergence. All right.
I hate it when those companies do that.
Me too.
Just I think it's like name.
Just put VR on the end if you want to put VR in the title.
Convergence That's VR, yeah.
It's very simple.
Want me to emphasize the VR? I don't know. I don't want to sound stupid when I'm talking about it, but I guess we're all going to sound stupid. So.
You know how many years? I thought it was like 4 VR bowling, 4 VR darts, all this kind of stuff. It's forever. It's just, yeah.
Why? Yeah.
Yeah, why? No. Pick a better name. Get a better name.
Pick a better name. This one definitely listened. Whitewater VR. Extreme kayaking adventure. Ooh. It's a more action-packed kayaking game. Whitewater rafting game. Paddle through some of the world's wildest and most challenging rapids in breathtaking VR. With stunning graphics, realistic physics, and heart-pumping action, you'll race against the clock as you navigate through wild waters filled with obstacles and surprises. So it's
I like surprises.
Yeah.
I hope surprises means bears. Hey. I'd like to see bears. And this is actually not far off what a lot of people were asking Kayak VR to implement. Yep. They're like, give us multiplayer and give us like changes in terrain. Because we had mostly flat, unless they've changed it, mostly flat, calm waters,
Yeah, they had some sections, but they didn't really double down on the rapid stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, but this is cool. I didn't even think there were any competitors out there, so it's good to see someone taking on. Oh, geez, some of this looks proper, kind of exciting.
Yep. So it's PCVR. It's PCVR. They have a demo out now already. The graphics are stunning, so it's definitely one that I wanted to highlight here. I got a little bit worried when Adam started talking about the other VR game with like realistic water. I was like, oh no, she found Whitewater VR.
No. The most extreme thing about Kayak VR, I think, is just that map where it's like a stormy lighthouse, and so the water's kind of choppy. But I feel like this game, it looks good, but it has to feel good because Kayak VR does a good job of giving you that bounce. If you feel like you're just kind of like slicing through the water and doesn't have that buoyancy feel. I don't know. It's one that I'll really have to feel to be able to give a good, verdict on.
Yeah, this is definitely that could possibly be why probably Kayak VR didn't dabble so much with Whitewater Rapids and stuff like that, because it could be a nausea inducer. But yeah, that's Whitewater VR Extreme Kayaking Adventure. And the last one I have here is, actually I have 3 more, sorry. Next one is Summer Dive. That's the newest Puzzling Places puzzle map. So this one is kind of keeping the theme of underwater to the games that we listed. It's out now for the PSVR 2. And yeah, it's good old Puzzling Places, but a little bit of underwater maps now.
Yeah, the cool thing about that, for those who maybe just caught it on the trailer, I know audio you won't have, is they've introduced some dynamic elements. So before, Puzzling Places had really nice sonic treatment as you were coming up to finishing a puzzle. And this one, you have companionship because you have these little fishes that are around you as you're putting together this dive build. So it looks very friendly and right along the right vibe that you get when you're doing a Puzzling Places game. So cool for $2. Like,
hey, can't go wrong with that. And I have one last one here that I really, you're gonna have to help me pronounce this one. Zim.
Oh no!
I think it's an Atari game. It's Akara.
You nailed it. I'm just gonna say you nailed it because I don't know how to pronounce it either.
Aka R. Yeah, ARRH.
Arcaxer? I think it's Arcaxer.
No way.
No.
There's no X in there. I refuse to believe it's Axer.
No. She's talking about a completely different game.
Oh,
this is for everyone who knows who Jeff Minter is. He creates the most psychedelic games, and I'm talking like over a 30-40 year career. Absolute nutcase to play his games, but actually does a pretty good job of frying your brain in VR. So Aka R, I suppose is how I would pronounce it. This is another one of his, like, looks like an arcade cabinet, but they absolutely flood you with crazy neon, like, arcade cabinet visuals and seas of enemies. It's like if you took Centipede and never stopped being the programmer for Centipede, but then he just mashes from music and sound to like nutty visuals. And he's put, I think this is his 3rd dedicated VR title. There was like Minotaur. I can't remember the first one that was on PSVR 1, but this one snuck under the radar. I didn't see it. And this kind of game is like, I find it's okay. It's a little bit too much for me actually when I play these games, because I can play them for like 30-40 minutes, but then my brain is just is melted after that. It's very fast paced. So it looks so good. Actually, this is one that I really want to play, and it's by Atari, right? I don't think if we mentioned that, which they're pretty well known for this kind of publishing. But yeah, it's $19.99. I believe it's on sale at the moment with extra 10% off if you have a PlayStation Plus. So you can pick it up for $11.99 on PSVR 2. That's $19.99 regular price. That's about 16 pounds and about 9 pounds if you have PlayStation Plus. But yeah, out now on PSVR 2. And yeah, those are all the games I have this week. To round them up real quick, and Architects, Convergence, Whitewater VR Extreme Kayaking Adventure, Summer Dive, Puzzling Places, and Akaka. We're not angry at you. It sounds like Jose's angry at you guys, but we're not. We promise. Thank you, Jose, for the nice rundown for games to keep us fresh. Definitely keeping an eye on things that I just didn't know existed. And the big thanks to the audience for tuning in to check us out, whether it's watching us back on the train, checking us out live, or hopping onto Discord after the show to shoot us your thoughts. This podcast runs every 2 weeks, so don't miss it. It's FReality. We're live every other Saturday, both on YouTube and Twitch. And we're on from 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, and 6 p.m. in Ireland. Screw you today, UK. This one's for the Irish lads. And the audio podcast over on Spotify, iTunes, and SoundCloud is a treat. Thanks to Rowdy's undying love for boosting and suppressing our audio recordings. Weird hobby, but hey, there's a Yahoo group for everything. With that, I suppose, chat, Petey, you just missed it. PD just jumping into chat there. That's it. So I'm going to ask everyone just to stay cool. Kings and queens of VR. And guess we'll all see you on the next one. Peace out from FReality.